Hey, what's going on, guys? This is Chris here, and today I'm going to be doing a special video for you to celebrate a big milestone that we've recently hit at Chill Tennis Entertainment. As of last month, we just surpassed 10,000 views on the How Andre Agassi Won Wimbledon in 1992 video, and given this now has over 110 likes, I really wanted to just do something special as a way of saying thank you, and also as a way to kind of give you guys some insight as to how these videos come together. I thought this might be helpful for other people that want to start their own tennis channels, just to give them some insight as to how I do this and some of the ways that you can get started with making videos. So before we get into that, I actually wanted to talk a little bit about this book over here called Open. And Open has been an excellent source of information for me in terms of writing these documentaries. So I read Open back when it came out in 2009. And it's an excellent read. It's not really that long of a book. It talks about Andre's whole career, starting from when he was a boy of about 6 or 7 years old, all the way up until his final U.S. Open match against Boris Becker. Good trivia question there, by the way. And it's a really interesting read, and luckily it provided me with a lot of information and some things in there that I was kind of wondering about. Did these things really happen to Andre? Like, did he really have a wig malfunction in the French Open with Gomez? And there's some other things in there as well, like, was he able to figure out Becker's serve based on where his tongue was pointing? So it got me interested in wanting to go back and check out all these older matches, and that really inspired this channel a lot and has gotten it to where it is today. So we're going to go ahead now and jump into the video, and I'm going to bring you guys over here onto my laptop screen. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and start the video here, and when I first, I'm going to go ahead and pause it for a second. When I first started with this project, I wanted to use the clips from this Nike commercial with Andre, because the first thing I'm going to say about him is that the clips are in really nice looking condition. One of the biggest challenges with making these videos from this time period is that in many cases the video clips are so old that it's hard to find something that really looks good enough to use it. And this stuff looked nice, so that's why I wanted to use this. In addition to that, another thing I'm going to point out here, Andre has he's wearing a bandana in this video, and going forward into the 92 and 93 and 94 season, he started adopting a hat. So that was another reason I wanted to use this clip, is it kind of indicates that these scenes were before he went to wearing a hat, and chronology is something that's really important to me. I want to have the feel of the film be almost like it's something that progresses forward, and I never like to refer to something that hasn't happened yet in a video from like 1992, so I wouldn't show videos of Andre when he was bald, for instance, in a video from this time period. So I feel like that kind of helps with the continuity a lot of the film, and that's why I wanted to use clips from this commercial. So we'll go ahead and play it a little bit here. Andre hits the ball right into the camera. I love that shot, and I love the music as well. I think it really builds up really well with the scene. We do like a split fade on that, and now he's playing Pete Sampras in the quarterfinals of the French Open. It's a really great match. I think there's a little bit of it that's available on YouTube. Andre gets kind of lucky here with the let call, and now he's playing Courier. So I'm going to pause it again. Now, one of the things that Andre mentioned in Open was that the loss that he had to Courier in the previous year's final at the French Open really played a big factor in this match. And he just felt that he didn't have the confidence at the time to really do well against Courier, and you can kind of see it here where he really bags it against Jim. He loses to him in straight sets. It's a pretty one-sided match, very easy win for Courier, at least based on the scoreline. And then after his loss to Courier, he's got a few weeks off before he has to go play Wimbledon. And in his book, he was talking about how Nick was, basically badgering him to go play Wimbledon. He didn't really feel like it because he was, mad that he lost to Courier, but eventually he gave in, just before the tournament started, and got over to go to play there. And in the first few rounds, Andre actually gets, in my opinion, he gets pretty lucky because he only has to face baseline-oriented players. Now, if you go back to 91, he's playing a guy by the name of Grant Connell in the first round at Wimbledon. And Connell was a serve and volley player. He had a really big serve, and he gave Andre all kinds of problems in that first round match. He actually takes him to 5 sets, almost beats him, but Andre finds a way to get through that match. Now, Andre didn't have to face anyone like that, a player that could really present a lot of challenges for him. So he's able to make it through the first 4 rounds pretty easily. I think he only loses a set or 2, and that helped him a lot, in my opinion, for the later stages of the tournament. So he's playing here in the 4th round. Don't remember his 4th round opponent, but I do know he wins it pretty easily for the most part. And now he's got to face Boris Becker. And if there's one player from this time period that is super dangerous, maybe besides Stefan Edberg, that would be Becker. Becker has won 3 Wimbledons. He's been to the finals of Wimbledon, I believe, 6 out of the last 7 years. So this guy is super tough on this surface. And Andre did allude to that in his book. But the thing is that Andre said that he had a tell. He had learned this tell from Becker that every time he would go to serve, he would point his tongue in a certain direction. And based on where Becker was pointing his tongue, you could tell where the ball was going to come on his serve. So apparently that made a big difference for Andre, and he was able to win this match against Becker. And he just barely manages to do it, though. It does go to 5 sets. But he manages to win this match against Boris Becker, and now he's in the semifinals, and he's got another tough player in the form of John McEnroe. Now, when I'm talking about McEnroe here, I really wanted to lay out the credentials for John McEnroe because he was such a great player from the 1980s. You know, he won Wimbledon, I believe it was 3 times in his career, the U.S. Open 4 times. But John is a little bit older at this point in time. You know, he's 32 or 33 now, and he hasn't won a Grand Slam in quite a long time, his last one being at the U.S. Open in 1984, which even back in 1992, that's quite a long time. That's almost 8 years. So that is something that's going in favor of Agassi. You know, he's the younger player, and McEnroe is not in his prime anymore. He's playing well, but he's not really in his prime. And Andre's able to dominate him really in this match, takes him down in straight sets. A very, very impressive performance from Agassi here, just in terms of how solid he was throughout the course of the match. Never really has a bad moment or anything like that. He's able to kind of fight through it pretty well. And now he's in the finals. The players in the other half of the draw, he's got 2 players. It's either going to be Sampras or Ivanisavich. And Ivanisavich actually takes down Sampras. So that would have also been pretty interesting if we'd had an Agassi-Sampras final instead. But anyway, what we wound up getting was a Ivanisavich versus Agassi final. And Ivanisavich, at the time, was expected to... And before I get into this, I mean, just look at the players that he's taking down here. I mean, Lendl, who was a very good grass court player. Edberg, excellent, outstanding player of his time period. Sampras, of course, you know, you couldn't get much better than that going forward. So Ivanisavich really beat some very, very credible competition to even get to this point. And yes, of course, he's the favorite to win against Andre. I mean, you know, you have to figure he would for sure be the favorite to win there. And now you've got, for this scene, I've got both players walking out, you know, onto the center court. I wanted to kind of slow it down a little bit just to kind of let the music build in because it's going to go fast-paced here in a minute. That's why I slowed it down there. And then I sped it up for this part to kind of build the energy back in a little bit. You've got both players hitting the ball. I kind of amped up the sound a little bit there just to bring the energy back up. And now we're right into the match. And for these clips here, I actually did darken them a little bit just to give a little bit better visibility when you're watching the shots. And this first set between them was very, very close. No breaks for either player. They both remained on serve all the way to the tiebreak. And in the tiebreaker, Goran was just a little bit more consistent than Andre was, and he won, I think it was like 1 or 2 points, well, 2 points more, I guess it would have been. Andre just has a couple of bad shots here, he loses his concentration maybe just a little bit at the wrong time. Like, that was a makeable shot. He just didn't get down low enough for it, and it winds up costing him the first set. So Goran hits the volley winner here. He's up a set. Okay, so we're going to stop it for a second. So Ivanisavich is now up a set. Okay, and you would think, knowing that Andre had a tendency to not want to fight when he would get down in the match, you would think, well, maybe Andre's just going to bag it here, basically, and Goran's going to win this in 3 or 4 sets. But interestingly enough, that's not what happened. And in the very first game of the second set, Andre hits some incredible returns of serve. We're going to see it in a second here. I mean, he's just going all out to break Goran. He hits this great backhand down the line, stretched way out on the ad side. Still hits a beautiful shot. Another nice shot right at Goran. Goran didn't really close on that serve well enough, but again, I mean, Andre's playing well, breaks Goran. Now he's got the momentum going in his favor, and that completely turned the course of this match around. So Goran is now starting to feel that pressure of, having to deal with an opponent that really believes in themselves. They're feeling the energy, they're feeling the positive, feelings of the moment, and he's got to find a way to shut Andre Agassi down. And Andre's playing well here, and time is running out a little bit. So now Goran starts throwing his racket, and as soon as this happens in the match, it really presents a major problem for Ivanisavich, because he just doesn't have the right energy for this moment. He's got to be focused, he's got to be able to concentrate through this, and he's not. His mind is just going everywhere at this point. He hits the ball in the net. I love that sound effect, and he slams it down. It's kind of funny to watch this, but these are really the moments that gave the match away for Goran. If he had just buckled down after losing that second set and said, I'm going to just, clear the calculator, so to speak, and just refocus, I think it would have been a different result. It really could have been. But he wasn't able to do that at the time, and he's just getting badly outplayed here by Andre. And now Andre's up 2-1. All right, so let's stop it again for a minute. Andre is now, yet again, for the second time in his career, he's only 1 set away from winning a Grand Slam title. Now, a couple things are going in Andre's favor here. For one, he's doing a really good job of keeping his composure. He's not getting frustrated in the tougher moments. He lost the first set in a tiebreaker. I mean, that's a great time, if any time, to get down on yourself. But he didn't do that. He was managing to keep his focus. He's just playing at one point at a time. He's doing an excellent job with that. And Goran is still the favorite to win this match. He is still the underdog. So I think that's also working for him mentally. But now in the fourth set, Andre gets super tight because he knows he's probably going to win the match, or he can at least win the match. He has a chance. And he starts missing shots. Goran starts playing better. He's more relaxed now. And so the momentum changes again. And now it's going back to Goran. And Andre's going to have to find a way to get himself going again, get back in this match. And it's really interesting, in tennis, it's so often like that. You're winning for a while, and then you get tight. The opponent maybe plays a little bit better, and then they start beating you, and you got to, work your way back into it. So Goran wins the fourth set. Okay, now Goran wins the fourth set in a blowout, 6-1 against Andre. We're heading into set 5, and there's no tiebreaker here in the fifth set. Back in these days, the only way to win the match was, if it went to a fifth set, was you had to break the opponent. And it's going to come down to basically who loses their serve first, because there hasn't been a whole lot of breaks up to this point. So Andre starts off pretty well in the fifth set. as does Goran. It's very, very tight at this point. They're both holding serve. They're both playing well. And there's a lot of moments where it could go either way. Right here, Goran's got a little bit of an opening, I think, against Agassi. But Andre is super solid, wins that point with a volley. That was a smart play by Andre there. Put the ball up so high against Goran that he had to flick the ball back. And then Ivanisavich gets lucky with a couple of shots. He's got a break point. If Goran wins this point, this is basically game over for Andre. But he doesn't. Andre makes the volley, places it perfectly, wins the point, and he's going to win the game here in a second. Yep, he's going to win the game, I believe, with this shot. And yes, and now Andre is up 4-3 in the fifth set. Okay, so for this part, I'm going to talk a little bit about what I did. So this is one of my favorite guitar solos. It's so beautiful. It's so energetic. I wanted to use it, and I recognized from listening to it that the music kind of crescendos at the parts where the players would be hitting the ball, and I thought, I've got to use this. It's so good. So I put this in here. And another thing I wanted to say on it was I love the angle of this shot. It's from the courtside view, so you can really see what the players are doing from down here. And that's such a nice thing, because I always find it a little harder to really see what they're doing when it's from an overhead shot. So I really like that courtside view. It's much better that way. Andre wins this point now, and he's managing to hang tough. He's hanging in there with Goran, and Goran knows that he's really going to have to work hard to beat this guy. He wants it just as much as he does. And Andre wins the game, and now it's 5-4. And, okay, at 5-4, you wouldn't necessarily think this is going to be the game where Goran's going to crack. I mean, he's been playing really well up to this point. But Goran starts this game off with 2 consecutive double faults. Now, that's a huge opening for Andre, because if you think about it, most of these games, Goran isn't holding the love. So the likelihood that he's going to win the next 4 points is pretty small. And we'll go ahead and play it here. He manages to win the next 2, so now it's 30-0. Things are still really close. Andre hits a fantastic return there, passes Goran at the net. Now he's got a match point. And anything can happen on this point. Yeah, Goran probably should win it. He's serving from the ad side. He should probably win it. But it's close here. Now Goran misses a first serve. Now you really know Andre could win it, because he's got the best return in the world. Goran hits it to his backhand. Doesn't hit that great of a return, but Goran misses the ball, and it's over, and Andre has won Wimbledon at 22 years old. Now I want to say something before we proceed any further here. With this music, the reason that I picked this music was I wanted something that would just almost feel like the weight of the world had been lifted off of Andre Agassi's shoulders. And in all of the matches that I've watched on YouTube, from like the 90 U.S. Open and the 90 French Open and 91 French Open, all those matches, the commentators always talked about, when is Andre going to win the big one, and they were always asking those questions. And so, and he also talks about that in his book, people were always asking him about this, when is it going to finally happen for you? And in this moment, he finally did it. The weight of that huge undertaking is finally off of him. That's why I wanted to use this music. I thought it was just perfect. Kind of gives you that feeling that, like, the weight of the world is just off of his shoulders. He's finally done it. He's finally proven himself. He's not image as anything anymore. He has something to hang his hat on, so to speak. And that's why I did that. And then I didn't want to talk during this point, because it's so important for him as a player in his career, that I just used the parts with Dick Enberg talking, because Enberg really does an excellent job here with his narration, and I felt like it was more would kind of put you more in the time period as well. So that's why I didn't want to talk during this part. I just wanted you to kind of be able to enjoy the moment of him finally getting it. And you can just see the joy on Andrei's face and just the crushed look on Ivanisavich's face. He's got a towel over his head. He's got his, head in his hands. He's so sad. Andrei's so overjoyed, he doesn't even know how to really handle himself. And it's just it's a really interesting contrasting moment there. And yeah, just a great moment. I have to feel a little sorry for Goran, knowing how many times it would take him to win Wimbledon, but at least he did finally win it in 2001 against Patrick Rafter. But Goran was just an amazing player. I mean, really one of the best servers probably of all time, I think. Just in terms of how well he could place the ball. And he's talking here with Bud Collins a little bit about how he played in each set, in the first set, second set, etc. Now Collins is talking with Agassi, and I think he talks with him here a little bit about how many serves he was missing in the fifth set, because Andrei's serving percentage was really low in that fifth set, and Andrei's just trying to kind of explain what he was going through mentally, just to hang in there game after game, with Goran, and yeah, I mean, what a way to end it. Would you ever pick the guy with the low first serve percentage and the slower serve to win the match, in the fifth set? But it's crazy, he managed to do it. And it was the only Wimbledon title that Andrei ever won in his whole career, actually, was this one. And he did make another final, but not many of them, actually. So it was a big milestone for him. And yeah, just a really, really cool moment. I wanted to put Balotelli in there at the end. This is actually the only slam that Andrei ever won with Balotelli as his coach. They would part ways the following summer, so it was just kind of a nice way to include Nick in on that. But anyway, guys, that's a wrap for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Please let me know what you got out of this video, if you enjoyed it as well. And just thank you so much for all the support. Really means a lot. And take care, guys. I will see you at the next one.